In the bustling city of Mola, there lived three close friends, Peter, John, and Francis. These young men hailed from the same village and had worked under the same master in Mola. 5 years after their master set them up to start their own businesses, they were still struggling to make meaningful progress. During every festive season, they would return to their village to see their families. But unlike their peers, who came home flaunting flashy cars and expensive clothes, Peter, John, and Francis could only afford to bring a loaf of bread for their parents. Their parents, ever understanding and supportive, would encourage them to remain patient and diligent, but deep inside, the young men longed for more. As December approached, the three friends met at a local lounge they often visited. Peter and Francis arrived first, but moments later, they saw John pull up in a brand new luxury car. Shocked, they wondered how John, who had been struggling just like them, had managed to buy such an expensive vehicle. When John joined them, he offered to pay for everything they ate and drank, leaving Peter and Francis even more bewildered. Out of curiosity, Peter asked, "John, whose car is that?" "It's mine," John replied with a wide grin. "I bought it. God has finally answered my prayers. This year is going to be different." Peter and Francis were stunned. "How?" Francis asked. "The last time we checked, you were barely making ends meet." John chuckled. "It's a miracle, my friends. I got a contract to supply over 1,000 refrigerators and televisions to a hotel. It's nothing but God's blessing." Peter and Francis celebrated John's success that evening. But later, doubt crept into Peter's mind. The story didn't add up. The next day, Peter visited Francis at his shop. After waiting for Francis to finish attending to his customers, Peter confided in him. "Francis, I don't believe John's story," Peter said in a low voice. "It doesn't make sense that he suddenly got such a massive contract without struggle. I think he must have done something unusual, something spiritual or illegal." Francis was hesitant. "Are you sure about this? John's story might be genuine." Peter leaned closer. "There's a witch doctor I've heard of in Oda village, a man called Baba Solu. He's said to grant wealth to anyone who seeks his help. I'm certain John must have visited him. Why else would he suddenly become wealthy?" Francis hesitated. He was a devout Christian and deeply uncomfortable with the idea. But Peter's words struck a nerve. Memories of the ridicule and shame they faced each year when they returned to their village haunted him. After much persuasion, Francis reluctantly agreed to accompany Peter to see Baba Solu. A few days later, they embarked on the journey to Oda village. After a day-long trip, they arrived at an eerie, secluded settlement. Unlike other villages, Oda was inhabited only by elderly people living in old huts. The sight was unsettling, but they pressed on, following directions they had been given. Eventually, they reached a grand duplex hidden behind thick bushes. As they entered the compound, they saw three beautiful women cooking. The women smiled at them but said nothing. When they stepped inside the house, a deep voice welcomed them. Seated in a luxurious chair was an old man with piercing eyes. "I am Baba Solu. What do you seek?" Peter explained their plight. "We are tired of struggling in poverty. We want wealth, Baba. Please help us." Baba Solu laughed. "I can grant you wealth beyond your wildest dreams, but nothing comes for free. There is always a price." "What is the price?" Francis asked nervously. "You will need a white chicken, a bottle of gin, and cola nuts," Baba Solu replied. Relieved, Peter and Francis agreed. Baba Solu led them through a series of strange rituals, including sleeping in coffins for 3 days. When they woke up, he congratulated them and warned, "You must renew the rituals every 6 months, or you will lose everything." Upon returning to Mola, Peter and Francis's fortunes changed overnight. Contracts poured in, and they became wealthy beyond imagination. They bought luxury cars, properties, and flaunted their wealth. 6 months later, however, both men had terrifying dreams involving their loved ones in life-threatening situations. Realizing it was time to renew the rituals, they returned to Baba Solu's residence. This time, Baba Solu demanded a greater sacrifice. "The gods want someone close to you," he said. "You must choose. either your mother or your sibling. Place their picture in this clay pot within 3 days, or everything you've gained will be taken from you. Horrified, Peter and Francis couldn't bring themselves to make the sacrifice. They decided to confide in John, who was shocked to hear their story. "I didn't visit any witch doctor," John said firmly. "I worked hard for my success. You've made a terrible mistake. You need to seek God's forgiveness." Determined to escape their fate, Peter and Francis set out to a church. But on their way, they had a fatal accident. Their wealth vanished mysteriously, and their families were left with nothing. Moral lesson: never envy others or assume their success comes through dubious means. True wealth and success come from hard work, patience, and integrity. Avoid shortcuts. They often lead to regret and destruction. Be content with what you have and trust that your time will come.